So we are live.
We are back with
Yes,
the
we're
Nerdrotic
back.
podcast. My name is Gary Buechler. I am live on YouTube, and I am in San Francisco with my good friend in San Diego, Dennis Bithoulkas, and co-host. How's it going, Dennis?
Doing all right. It's midweek. It's Wednesday. So,
Hump day.
Yes.
Break.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Break. Hump day.
Hump day.
Hump day. Hump day.
So, what we love about Hump Day, and we're actually recording a video on this particular Hump Day for The Expanse, and let me tell you, dude, this was an awesome episode. This was like shit went down, and it was a lot of great changes from the book. A lot of changes that made more mature changes. I don't know, what'd you think, man?
There was a lot of things that were telegraphed. I mean, kind of, like what was going on board the ship that was bringing refugees in, and Fred Johnson's role, what was happening with him, which we've been seeing over the last couple episodes, kind of what was leading up to what happened to him at the very end of this episode,
which we will discuss. But
yes.
What the main thing that this episode is called Pyre, and it was basically it was a flamethrower on every situation that happened, and it kind of undid Miller's sacrifice. So far, I mean, things could change, but right now, as it looks, Miller kind of died for nothing because the protomolecule is now out there, and we know about one, and there's also the one only Naomi knows about, which is pretty messed up. Considering there was one point in the episode she got pretty pissed at Holden for keeping a secret from her. It's like, ooh, you hypocrite.
Yeah. And especially what her face said when Holden said, no more secrets from here on out.
Yep.
And she just kind of made that weird face.
Well, and she's
really that weird face that women make when they do that thing.
Oh God, I just got it. As a matter of fact, like 5 minutes ago, from our lovely and talented co-host who worked so hard today that she could not make it. She's sorry to be here. Sorry she couldn't be here. She says hello to everybody. So this episode starts out where we are on Ganymede, and we see a dream sequence from our new character Prax, who is a botanist. And just to refresh you on Ganymede is the breadbasket of the outer planets.
Ganymede, by the way.
Ganymede. And I'm sorry, you know what? I'm pronouncing it like the guy does on the audiobook, which is wrong. It's Ganymede. And Prax is a botanist, and he is a brilliant one, and he has a daughter named May. And in the show, the mirror crashes down on his dome, and he barely survives if it wasn't for one of his co-workers who helped him out. And May was at a doctor's appointment, and apparently the rest of the mirror kind of landed on where her doctor's appointment. So as the episode begins, Prax thinks his daughter is dead, and he's dealing with that. And it was just a great opening, I thought. And they're on a refugee ship that's run by Belters. And I gotta preface this. You watch this episode, and at the end of this episode, you're hating Belters. You're just going, I have no sympathy for these sons of bitches. Fuck these assholes. And I felt that way too. But the really complex, cool thing about this show and the books is you get more in depth, and it's a lot like Game of Thrones, and a lot like a lot of shows are now. They're showing you the gray areas, and not like all people are bad. There is bad people within good people. There's lots of factions. But with this show, this episode decided to show you the bad faction, and there is a bad one of the Belters. And the lady it starts out with the girl who helps out Prax. I'm sorry, I didn't get her name.
They said it briefly. He said her name once, and I can't remember.
Yeah, I didn't catch it either. So she helped them out, and they tell the Inners that they have to separate now because they're going to take a ship to Mars and Earth, and they vent everybody. And Prax almost gets on. She invites Prax to join her at Mars, and they could start a new life. And Prax, again, is just dealing with his daughter being dead, and he was going to stay on the ship, and then he decided to go. And the guy, I know I could totally tell what was going to happen. And I was just like, no, that's so fucked up. And the guy, the belter who leads everybody into the airlock, holds Prax back, and it's because he's a belter. And as soon as that happened, I knew especially when the girl was smiling, I'm like, this is Expanse, and it's starting to get a bit of a reputation. And if anybody's smiling, they're about to die. And she dies. And you know what? It's unforgivable to let a girl that cute, forget everybody else, but a girl that cute die in space. It was just messed up. And I'm sorry, she was very cute. But that did not happen in the books, man. So what this episode did for us book listeners and readers is it set a tone that's very different from the books. Like, this is dark. Like, this show is much darker than the books are, and the book's pretty dark, but this is like, that was cold-blooded. What a cool scene.
That I almost kind of equate on a lesser scale, of course, to the Red Wedding. In Game of Thrones, and you could see the parallels of things going on.
And you know what? That's very astute of you, Dennis, because there is a lot of little hints of Game of Thrones in there, because these guys are proteges or students. Actually, one was an actual student of George R.R. Martin. So there's a lot of love, we'll say, and it's really, really cool. But that was a fucked up scene. I don't want to make it sound.
Oh yeah,
like
it was good, especially when you see her still breathing in space.
Oh, I wanted to fast forward through it, and I couldn't, because I do. I fast forward through uncomfortable scenes. All right, I'm that sensitive. So then we get on to Tycho Station, and they're still helping the refugees there, and Prax gets on. And he's trying to, he doesn't even know what ship he was on. So when he gets off, he finds finds a doctor and tells her what happened. She's like, what ship are you on? He's like, I don't even know. And we're still dealing with Fred Johnson kind of double crossing Holden. Right. And it's a precarious position. I don't know. How do you feel about Fred Johnson? Like, how do you like him as a character?
He's the king without any clothes, as they say. The emperor has no clothes. That saying. That's pretty much who he is.
Yeah,
he's someone who had his power. He's now past his prime, and he's pretty much a belter like everyone else.
Yeah, and not even that. Dawes stole the scientist last episode and shoots him a video right away, going, "I got your guy." And, everything I've done for you, you were one of us, but this was fucked up. And if you look at it from Dawes' perspective, I can't disagree with him at all.
Well, no, what Dawes was saying, Dawes was right. He goes, "You're a belter in here," is what he says about Fred Jones. He goes, a friendly boot heel is still a boot heel on your neck. He goes, how soon is it before you deny air, water, that kind of thing to get your way? And you're no different than
the Earthers.
The Inners.
The Inners, yeah. And basically he's still an Earther in his head, and he was right. And I think Fred Johnson, you could tell in the acting anyway, like he was like, fuck, he's right. Yep. And as soon as everybody sees that, like, his control is over. And the only reason he had any type of control is he's got an extremely loyal head of security who last episode we were kind of thinking that she was the one.
I don't think she's actually still loyal to him, to tell you the truth.
No belt. Okay, it explains it in the books, and the TV show is starting to get there, but belters are for belters, and the way they live, getting up and taking a shower and tying your shoes. For a belter, it's getting up, checking your air ducts, checking your air recycler, and making sure all your environmental stuff is okay. They obsess over it, and it's just like breathing for them, because they have to breathe for that stuff. So being a belter, and remember, they've been up there for hundreds of years, so this is generations. So they are almost a different species.
Yes.
Not quite, but almost. They can't live on Earth. A lot of belters, unless they've had
the gravity. Yeah.
They would die down there. So I think in that aspect you're right, but she wasn't the one who betrayed him. It was the communications guy, we find out later.
No, I know that, but I still think, like you said, there's some changes to the books. I think the one change is that she is still loyal to Dawes.
I think that is still a definite possibility. I think she wants to be loyal to both, and she's finding it very, very hard. I think she genuinely was frustrated when Dawes took off. Like, she will still feed him information, but then he'll still like do what he does, and she gets frustrated. So she must have been in love with him at some point. There must have been a boyfriend girlfriend thing.
Yeah, there was definitely some kind of entanglement at some point.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
and I love the casting for most of the Belchers. They do the best they can. In the books, they're all like 7 feet tall and have like larger heads, so you can't, it would take forever to do. So they do a pretty good job of making, like, even Naomi looks, a big headed and thin. They cast it right there. But there's still that video gets out, that Dawes, and it gets to a pretty radical group on the station who was friends with Diogo. Diogo got brought in and he got put in the brig, and he's lucky he didn't get spaced. I forgot who this head of security's name was. Sorry. A little unprepared.
I honestly can't remember her name either.
You can't have both. We're either going to do a live video on Wednesday night and not know all the names, or do one on Thursday night and we'll know all the names. So we'll mix it up. We'll get better as it goes on. But the best part, I just love the whole betrayal thing. Like, that group comes in and takes over the station, and they're going to go, steal all the missiles. And in the meantime, we find out what happens to Amos. And Amos looks like he was on a bender.
Yeah, he was out drinking, fighting, of course, because he has a split lip.
Yep.
And more than likely fucking as well.
Yes, and he comes out with like a stained shirt, and I'm like, oh boy, I've been there. Oh, yeah. Have I been there? And Alex is trying to, Alex is my favorite character in the books and in the show. I don't know why, because I usually don't like the level-headed ones, but I just like Alex for some reason. And he's a badass pilot, and he's the one crew member who's, Holden is scared shitless of the proto-molecule. Anytime proto-molecule gets mentioned, he gets freaked out. And that's what's interesting about him, is like this lead character, is he's scared. Like, and he doesn't hide it. He's like, this shit freaks me out and I'm irrational around it. And the one rational guy is Alex, and he's trying to help the refugees and doing the right thing. But I don't think he sees some of the subtleties sometimes. And obviously Amos got completely fucked up, pushing that kid, and it reminded him of something, and they keep telegraphing the Lydia thing, like, who's Lydia?
Yeah, he actually looks her up to see where she's at, and she's in Baltimore on Earth.
She's in his hometown of Baltimore, and he loses his focus. Plus, he hasn't been hanging around Naomi and Holden, who are kind of his grips on reality. And he gets in an argument with Alex and damn near kills him, or is about to kill him, and you can
he threatens him. He does. He says to Alex, he goes, I don't want to fight you because then we need another pilot.
Yeah, I know. That's just his logic. It's so great, right? And they hear the dinging in the background, and like right in the middle of this fight, he's all, do you hear that noise too? And this is what I love about Amos, is like, he can be there and then not be there. The guy does a great job. And Amos is so much better in the shows than he is in the book. In the books, he looks like Dave Bautista. He's older and just kind of he's like a bouncer. This one, they gave him a lot more layers. They give all the characters more layers, and I'll go into that later in the podcast. But then we flip back to Holden and Naomi, who find out through the doctor that Prax knew somebody who was related to the proto-molecule, and it's a Dr. Strickland. So that they at first think Prax is involved in it, and they rush him away, and they look all threatening, and Prax is like, what the fuck? And they pull something out of his pocket, and it looks like a coffee mug, and it's just a little soybean or something like that.
Soybean plant. Yeah, at first I thought, because when we first see him open it on board the refugee ship, you see a light, and I thought it was part of the proto-molecule, and I was like, so he's actually bringing this back on board the ship. He was working on it, but nope, it just turns to be a regular little soybean plant.
So was the second thing that hit your mind was how many fucking potheads would love to have a little thermos, a coffee thermos that's got a grow light in it, and they can carry their little pot plants around with them all the time because they
Yeah,
love them so much.
yeah,
Yeah. So they find out he's just a botanist and he lost his daughter, and they show a picture. And Naomi, this is a very interesting thing that I wanted to bring up. Naomi brings up the fact that, hey, if she was at a doctor's appointment, don't you have parental permission to monitor your daughter at all times? And he's all, yeah. Are you a parent too? She's all, oh, no. I just know about it. I want you all to remember that. Naomi's got a lot of secrets, folks.
oh
I don't
yeah.
know how it's going to unfold on the TV show, but she is a very layered character, we'll say. So they go look at the video, and lo and behold, there's little May with Dr. Strickland, and he's taken off with her, and it's an hour before the attack on Ganymede. Huh.
Yep.
That is no coincidence, as Holden says. And they've
And
been
he's also her primary pediatrician. And Holden's suspecting that he may have been experimenting on May with the protomolecule.
yes. We don't yet know. I don't know if they're going to bring this up in the show. So maybe I shouldn't bring it. In the book, she has a condition. She has a like all kids born in the belt, they don't have like these great immune systems. So they all have to take medication. They have pediatricians. I don't know if they're going to bring that up. I don't know if it's important enough to bring it up in the
They might do it in passing just to say why she was there all the time. Because, I mean, to have your own pediatrician, and she's going there a lot, they would have to, they'll explain it away at least, with a little bit of explanation to it.
And let me backtrack a little bit. Before the attack on the station, Naomi and that head of security went to an antenna array to try to triangulate where the scientist had been in contact with the protomolecule, because Fred dropped the bomb, which I can't believe I forgot to mention this, that he had actually spoken to it at one point.
Yeah.
It said something. We don't know what it said. We don't know who said it, whose voice was used, and we don't know where it came from. So Naomi and the head of security go outside. They have to go directly to the antenna to figure it out.
Which I thought was kind of stupid. I thought, I'm sitting there going, wait, so you actually have to go out to the antenna to download data?
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah.
I think it was just a way in the script to get those two alone, which I would have thought something better. And maybe that's something, I've only watched it once. Maybe it's something we missed, but I don't know. That was kind of weird. But I never understood. I never saw where that's where they found out the message came from Ganymede. And that's when they freaked out. They're like, it's from Ganymede. But Naomi continued. She kind of freaked out a little bit and went back to the Rosanani and looked Rosanate. Sorry,
It's called
which
the
is the name of Don. Yeah, I'm going to start calling it Rossi from now on. Believe me, which is the name of Don Quixote's horse, by the way.
Yes.
And that's and she was looking to see where she left her protomolecule, and it looks like she fired it up real quick and then decided not to. But what did she keep looking at? Was she looking to see if the scientist was in contact with her protomolecule too?
She was trying to see if anything was coming towards. She kept expanding out into the solar system to see if anything heading towards the missile, or the missile was, maybe going that direction as well. Maybe sending out some kind of signal.
So maybe Dawes got a hold of it, or she was afraid he was, or maybe the protomolecules communicating or something.
Yeah, she wanted to see it. I think that's what she was doing, was seeing if it was communicating. Because when she found out that it was actually talking, that the what was his name, the doctor?
Strickland? Or no, I remembered his name. It was something with a C. Now I remember we were saying it last weekend, and I can't remember it now. But we'll move on.
Yes. So anyway, that doctor
Dr.
Calazar, yeah. So when Dr. Calazar was saying that he heard it, she wanted to see. This is before she found out it was on Ganymede. She wanted to see if it was actually her piece of the protomolecule that was talking, and that's why she powered it up to see if there's any kind of transmissions coming from it. And then she expanded out wider when she saw there was no transmission, to look at the solar system to see if there's any interaction between hers and what else was out there. Because you saw she tracked where the missile was. Then she went over to Ganymede and saw, what was around Ganymede and Tycho Station as well.
Huh. Okay, see, that's one of the, that's why I have to watch things twice. Sometimes they just don't sink into my drug-addled noggin. That was from years ago, by the way. So one of the more interesting things that well, also their protomolecule is not active. It's an inactive form of it. It's still in the tube for now, but that might be the difference. And that's why it's not communicating, because it hasn't been let out of its little test tube. So they take over, they being the rebellious Belters, take over and shoot the head of security who's with Fred in the gut, trying to get him to give over the launch codes for the nukes, which, Fred's never going to freaking do. But like, he just sees his power just slipping away. It's gone. I mean, it's completely gone at this point.
He had lost it 2 episodes ago.
Yep.
I think we talked about it last podcast. We were saying that his power was gone anyway, and he was just a straw man standing there essentially, and his only power was the nukes, and he was going to give those away.
Yeah, and you know what? On paper, it sounds like a great idea, and if the Belters saw things like he did, which I think he does actually see things better, but I don't think his blind spot is still the Belters and understanding like it's going to be a long way till they can get to a point of we're cool enough to talk, because they feel so fucked over. And they have mentioned in this show, and you've mentioned it twice now, that Earth and Mars have both cut off air and water to them to get what they want, to get their resources. Not offer the, when they had a strike, they didn't negotiate, they cut off air and water. I mean, it's really fucked up. Well, it's the corporations, but corporations and the government are one and the same in this world. One of the real things about this world is it's a certain point of view. It's a certain political point of view taken ahead 300 years. Okay, so we're going to say, like, if globalization is cool and it wins and it works out that way, and the UN does run everything in a Western European style, that's kind of what this world is. But it's still got the same problems. It's just expanded out into space now. And what's funny it's not funny, but in the book, it still mentions that Afghanistan's still a problem. So they still have to deal with Afghanistan. Like, that's the only country. But everybody else is pretty much spread across the world. And it seems like, the thing about Earth is, and I'm sure they'll mention this in the show, is half of its population is on a thing called basic, which is a welfare that you get your basic needs taken care of, and that's it. And a lot of people are addicted to drugs. The inner cities are just completely lost to gangs and stuff, and it's super overpopulated, and that's why people went to Mars in the first place. And the Martian culture is kind of it's a naive culture, and you catch that when you get on the ships. It's a bunch of kids, but they're all like, they have a single-minded mission, and they're all on that mission, and they're all part of that mission. And it's militaristic, but it's a naive militaristic, and they're not evil. Actually, Martians are a lot nicer than Earthers in a lot of ways. But they're still cold-blooded, and the people who run Mars are really cold-blooded, we're going to find out. So that's why the belt feels so fucked over. And after this episode, it's really hard to feel sympathetic to them. But, that'll change. That'll change, especially venting, what was it, 16 or, inners, and, and they killed a couple people on the station. And when they finally freed the head of security, Holden finally answers his phone. And Alex is like, we got a situation here, and they run in, and Amos has to go out and have a little spacewalk, and he cuts off the oxygen.
By the way, let me just say that spacewalk, by the way, him going out, that was actual science, the way they did it, with him being upside down and coming down the elevator upside down, and then having to hold on from the centrifugal force, because he's going to get thrown off the space station if he doesn't hang on, because it's rotating. And the nice thing about it is, even if he gets thrown off, he'll still stay within the gravity of the space station. He'll just be spinning around outside of it without a way of hanging on. That's why he's hanging on to the those grips, and then he kind of doubles over, activates his mag boots, gets on, walks over to where he needs to go to, and then you see his arms kind of moving up like this because of the centrifugal force. And he finally gets over, has to activate one of the mags on his glove to put that down so he can stay put, so he can actually weld and take off part of the hull plating.
No, that was really cool, and it was like a really awkward and not pretty looking spacewalk. And you're right. One of the MythBusters is a big fan of this show. The thinner one,
Jamie, not Jamie, Adam.
Adam, yeah. So he hosted a special, which I highly recommend you go on sci-fi.com and watch. It's an hour-long special, just kind of recapping season 1. And he is a huge fan, and he does it's actually, he's like really into the show. And they interview some NASA guys, and I guess they talk to them, and the writers of the book like do their homework on this stuff. So like I said, I don't know if it's real science, but with the gravity stuff, they're always talking about like your character having to reorient themselves and all the shit that happens in space. Unless they have their mag boots on, or unless there's a lot of thrust, they're floating around half the time. So it's not like guys walking down hallways in like Star Wars and stuff like that. They explain this crap, and I love that part of it. And another great thing in the books is anytime they go somewhere, they always make sure to take a chapter to do that. So you're not like at your place like the next chapter. You've got a chapter of traveling, and it's not boring, but it gives you this sense of it does take a while to get places. Yeah, it's really, really cool.
Yeah,
so they do.
I love the science portion of it. For me, watching science fiction, I like seeing science in there. I know I'm going to go back to Babylon 5. I usually do. There's
nothing wrong with that. Nothing to be ashamed of with that.
Yeah, there's an episode where someone kills someone on the station, and to get rid of the body, they shove it out the airlock. Not understanding basic physics, that even though you shove the body out the airlock, it's still going to rotate around the station because the station has a gravitational pull. And it's a greater object, a greater mass, so it's going to attract a smaller mass, which being the body. So they find the body orbiting the space station.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and they explained that in the episode. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
The effed up thing they do in Expanse is bodies, when they want to hide them or when they actually want to get rid of them and don't know about it, they go into the recycler. And I think they've mentioned it in the show. And yes, the recycler. All your water's recycled pee, and this, what Prax drank in that refugee ship was her urine. That's why he's all, kinky. No, sorry.
It's sterile.
It's sterile, and I like the taste.
Dodgeball moment there.
Yep, there you go.
Do I have to drink my urine? No, but it's sterile, and I like the taste.
I like the taste. Yeah. So this episode, I'm trying to remember where it. Okay, so the Prax is going to go to Ganymede with them after they find out, and Holden and Fred Johnson do not leave on very good terms at all.
No.
And Holden says something pretty fucked up.
Well, Holden, saves. They save Fred and everybody, and you got to remember his head of security there, as she's being brought out. She grabs Alex's gun and pop, shoots the two guys who took over the bridge there, and just kills them right out, shoots them in the head, which leads me to believe she's covering tracks, or she's really pissed off that Dawes, because Dawes had something to do with this as well. He had to.
Oh yeah.
And she's just pissed that he let it go that far where she gets shot, and that's why she was just taking out her frustration on these
and that's where where she mentions to Naomi that Dawes has an interesting way of seeing the world, and that's where Dawes is probably, like many revolutionaries out there, great revolutionary, fucked up bad leader. Okay. And most revolutionaries are psychopathic killers. We got to remember that.
It's kind of funny, they're patterning Dawes a lot on Che Guevara.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could was totally a killer.
Yeah, he was a complete and total killer.
Yep, killed children. Okay, the man killed children.
That's the reason why Castro's people killed him, because they got the revolution they needed, they got the change, and they're like, you know what, this motherfucker scares us, we're gonna kill him. So
Yep. Well, God, what after he was done at Cuba, he was going to Africa to start more revolutions. He wasn't done. So, and yeah, that it's messed up. You got to put the attack dog down, and that's what they. So that's what Dawes is, and he would even sacrifice his girlfriend if need be, if it's for the greater cause. So yeah, she's like seeing that reality,
pissed. Yeah,
totally pissed. Yeah, she was pissed, and I love that character, by the way. I think she's great in the show. So Holden and Fred have a not nice conversation, and I kind of like Fred Johnson, as a character. I know not everything he's done is great, everything, but I think he's trying to do the best thing.
He's past, he's got an old way of thinking, is what it is, and he's not caught up to speed on the reality of the situation. That's the whole thing, and I think. Like he said, when he said, oh, the protomolecules out there, out in the world, we need to deal with it in a different way. He wasn't dealing with it in a different way. He was still trying to deal with it in the old ways he was used to dealing with things. Whereas Holden and his group are actually dealing with it in a certain way, the way you're supposed to. They're being a little more far-seeing, if you will.
Yeah.
And that's why Holden just pretty much told them flat out. He goes, you know what? You're done. You're over. It's over with. You might as well go home at this point.
Yeah, and he said he was sorry. He said, I'm really sorry, but you're not a player in this anymore.
Yeah.
And it turns out like Miller's motivation was revenge for Julie, but he was right. Miller was right. You just need to shoot the guy in the face who invented this, because we can't control it. It's going to control us. It will destroy us. It just needs to be put away, and everybody just wants to keep a little piece for power and stuff, and they just do not understand that they have no control over this thing whatsoever.
Yeah.
And they're only lucky that it doesn't really have a conscious mind of its own. It has a program that it's following, but it doesn't have a conscious mind of its own, or they'd all be dead already. But it's really interesting because that Dawes having it is a change. So I have no idea where that's going to go. And that's cool. I think that's a very good change. The meeting with Prax, and I'm talking about the books here, is a change. It's a little less kind. The show is a little less kind than the books, and it's very cool. And this episode moved really fast, and it was good because it felt like last episode, although it was very political and good, it looks like we're back on our Expanse pace again, which is really a fast moving pace, and that's what I like about the show. And
I have to say, I really like the breathers that they had.
Yes,
that were kind of the oxygen breathers that they used when they cut off the oxygen to the room to get in there. And that Holden and his crew were wearing. It's kind of, we've seen them before. We've seen them in season 1 and also a little bit in season 2 here, but they're just little masks that go over the mouth and the nose, and they go around the back of the neck with a little tiny tank of oxygen.
Yep. And they look a lot like what Han Solo is wearing in Empire Strikes Back.
Actually, what would be really cool is if they integrated that into a Batman costume.
Yeah. If we're gonna have a Batman someday, that's a whole other subject for a whole other podcast, isn't it? There's been so much Batman news, and but we've already reported on it. That's the thing. Everything we've heard, we've already talked about months ago.
Yes.
So we're like the
prognosticators.
Karnak, is that what
yes.
Johnny Carson was? The amazing Karnak.
Karnak, yes.
Yes. And nobody knows who the fuck Johnny Carson is anymore, do they?
Prognostication
shit, man. So very cool episode. We got to see a little bit of the scenes for next week. It looks like some shit's gonna go down on Ganymede, and we're gonna get Avasarala back and Barbara Draper. That's gonna be some juicy stuff.
We're getting some Earth again. And I don't know, am I seeing things right? Is New York, does it have like a little wall around it to keep the water out?
I think you did. Showing that the water level has risen a little bit. I think I'll go back and verify that, but I wouldn't be surprised. That sounds right with this world. It is what, 320 years in the future. So
300 years in the future. And the Statue of Liberty, same thing. It has a little wall.
Yeah,
looks like it's sunken in.
I know. I saw that. Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. Good call on that one, buddy. All right. So you can find all of our podcasts at nerdrotic.com. All of our videos are there too. You can find us on YouTube if you're not watching us there already, which is the Nerdrotic channel. We are on Facebook, which is the Nerdrotic podcast. Always like us, talk about us, good or bad.
Talk to
It's
us.
cool. Talk to us, please. We also have an audio podcast, which is where this all started out, on iTunes. Search Nerdrotic. You'll find 3 versions of it. Just pick one. It's okay. And rate us, please. Still, we're on Podomatic. And we're also on the Twitter. Mine is at Nerdrotics. Dennis, what is yours?
Mine is at DeForce, DAFORCE. John is at John Reed 16, REED. And we also have Melissa's at Agent Bossy Boots.
That's right. We also want to mention, we're very excited about this, that we are going to Comic-Con this year. Dennis and I,
Yes, we are.
Thanks to Dennis.
We
scored tickets for all 4 days. Oh my God, I'm so excited. I can't even tell you, man. I'm so freaking excited.
There we go.
Yeah, we're gonna be broadcasting pretty much constantly. So if I have the bandwidth, and if you're on Facebook, it's gonna be on our Facebook page. So we will be live from there constantly, and we will be probably talking about it every podcast until then. So please don't get sick of it. We will be back with the Expanse either next Wednesday or Thursday, depending on everybody's work schedule. And Dennis, take us out.
Oh, and also we have Legion,
yes,
and CW Superheroes. We also have Riverdale. We have God, what else do we have there?
John just posted a exciting interview. Well, he's got the Genius, but an exciting interview with a gentleman named Luke Passmore, who has written and worked on many things you've heard of, like Superman Returns, Trick or Treat, some Walking Dead webisodes,
and Walking Dead: The Oath, actually.
Walking Dead: The Oath, yes. This is a good guy, a smart guy, an entertaining guy. So please go to nerdrotic.com and listen to part 1 of the interview. John will post part 2 in a little bit. We also have The Genius, which is a South Korean TV show that's very interesting and unique, and we are the only ones podcasting about it in America right now. So congrats to John and his podcasting friend. I can never remember his name when I'm on the podcast. The other guy. He won't feel bad, will he?
No.
So now, Dennis, take us out.
Don't let the door hit your ass on the way out, America.
And may the small folks sing songs of your greatness. Good night, everybody.
Good night to everyone.
Bye-bye.